Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's premiere edition of the premiere podcast on JTN. I'm, as always, on everything on this channel, Joe Twansky. Alongside me tonight, a great pal, friend, and just a wonderful human being, Davey Hazard. Welcome, Davey.
Thank you so much for the praise, Mr. Joe Twansky. I am happy to be here.
Well, we're gonna have some fun, Davey, with this podcast. It's something that I think you and we've been talking about for a month, 2 months, 3 months, probably longer than that, just based off some of the discussions we have about racing in general. Everything's gonna probably take a more NASCAR centric tune, just because I think that's something that the people want to see, want to hear, I guess, because they're not really seeing anything. And yeah, I think that's we're gonna start with some introductions though, Davey. So why don't you go first? Because I think the fans at home already know a little bit about me.
Okay, my name is Davey Hazard. That's my real last name. I'm 23 years old. I am from Florida. I'm a third generation racer, avid sim racer. Um, I don't know. I mean, that's really all I got. That's all I really like. That's kind of like my whole entire life. So I'm not the most exciting person, but I do love racing, and I have loved racing all my life. So,
Well,
yep.
and Davey, you say third generation racer. So do you want to shed some light on that, maybe a little bit more?
My grandfather and my dad both raced around on bull rings up in the Northeast. Seekonk, Thompson, Waterford, all places those speed. Grandfather raced modifieds and late models. My dad raced, late models, pro stock, mostly the street stock division at Seekonk Speedway. And then, unfortunately, they moved away from Rhode Island just before I was born, so I didn't get that stock car experience. But I started karting at 14, 15 years old, and I've been karting ever since. And I am actually, breaking news, looking to get into cars here very soon. But that is my history in racing.
Yeah, my history in racing doesn't go back anywhere. As always, I'm Joe. Joe Twansky, founder of JTN and the Johto Network. Such creative names that we got going here. Um, Currently 20 at University of Michigan, doing undergrad studies for mechanical engineering, with the hope of being able to get into racing and just the auto industry, maybe in general, depending on what it is, from Michigan. So that definitely helps with all the General Motors, Ford, Fiat, Chrysler being based in and around Metro Detroit. But yeah, just always racing's always been my thing. Um, I think a lot of people can relate with the idea of being known as the NASCAR kid at school growing up, and that was me to a very large degree. And yeah, I think that's a lot about me. You guys hear me every single race here on JTN that we're doing for NR 2003. And Davey, that's where you and I met originally. About 5 or 6 years, 6 years ago
Six
now.
years ago, 6 years ago at the Fast Racing League. Good Lord. It's kind of ridiculous. I don't want to think about everything that's happened since I started racing here. I graduated high school since I started racing here. Dropped out of college since I started racing here. Kind of been through a little bit of everything, but yeah, it's honestly I couldn't have asked for a better way to meet a person. Honestly, this is like my favorite hobby ever. So
Well, and I mean that's what sim racing does, and that's why the name of this podcast is the name of it is the Fake Racers Podcast. Because, well, I mean, Davey, you're a real racer, but
no, I'm a fake racer.
oh,
Even when I do it in real life, I'm still full of fake racer. It's okay.
so we both have the love for cars and racing and all that. Just because we can't do it at a professional or a semi-professional level doesn't mean we're any less of a racer with that racing spirit that you love at home. Watching guys race here on JTN in real life, whatever that is. So, without further ado, we're gonna get into our topics tonight. How's that sound, Davey?
I'm ready.
All
So let's
right,
hit it.
all right, let's get into it. All right, now we move on to the 2021 silly season. It's been silly in the last week or so with a lot of moves and stuff being announced. The first thing that really tipped this all off, though, was the news that it's Germain was looking to sell their charter, Davy, and I think that's just a big deal just because it's another small team leaving the sport.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we're getting more and more evidence every season that small teams have to they have to do some pretty exploitative stuff to stay afloat. I mean, you look at Rick Row Racing and Spire, and a lot of people forget all the controversy between all those small teams a few years ago at the end of the season, or yeah, was it last year? I don't even remember. But there was all that stuff, and they just yeah, it really is starting to show some glaring issues with the charter system.
Yeah, and I think you know the one thing the charter system does well, at least, is to provide the owners with some a way to at least make some money back once they exit. I mean, we saw Jermaine is selling their charter, and we'll get to that next. But you also saw it with Levine selling their charter. We'll get to that later on down the road too in this episode. But these teams, they're at least able to sell something. I think that's the main reason behind the charter system. But from day one, I've always been against the idea of franchising in NASCAR, just because I don't think it provides what it's supposed to provide. I think, we used to have owner points, and owner points were great because, they locked you into a race if you were top 35, and now it's top 36 if you think about it in that terms, with 36 cars getting in based on owning charters. But what it does is it makes those other 4 open spots, right? It makes it harder for smaller teams to get in. We've reduced field size since implementing charters, and I think we just kind of we narrow the gap for people to actually get into the Cup Series, because we've seen over the past couple of years a bunch of teams pop up in the Xfinity Series.
Yep.
Oh man, I took a lot of your ideas there, didn't I?
A little bit.
You love to see it, but I mean, another thing, Davey. I don't know if you'd want to talk about it, but a big thing with Jermaine, and it might just be more so of an optics thing, and I would assume that that's what it is. But NASCAR, when they restructured the Cup Series for 2020 with the 4 primary, so whatever the sponsors, I forget the exact term for them, but they're the 4 sponsors: Xfinity, Coca-Cola, Geico, and Busch. Those 4 sponsors, 2 of which are already sponsors of teams, which with Busch and Geico. And now Geico leaving the 13 team is why it's shutting down. Anything about that? Because we've seen it in the past too with Nationwide, but it was the opposite thing where they left the Nationwide series to sponsor Dale Jr.
I don't know. I mean, it's really kind of. I don't really know where to go with that or what that means. Personally, like I really don't know what that means. Like it could be a myriad of things. Like I don't know. I think it's not great that NASCAR's, I don't know if they're just charging so much money that it doesn't make sense for them to sponsor a car, or if the fact that they're sponsoring NASCAR is showing much more massive returns than sponsoring a car. Like, does it make it not worth it to sponsor a car? And what does that mean for other sponsors who are looking to get exposure? Like, I don't think it's a good sign. I don't know exactly what it means, really. Like, I got to be honest, I haven't really paid attention to the whole Jermaine thing. All I know is that it opened the door for a lot of other crazy shit. That's like the furthest I know about it, is that like that was the catalyst for a lot of the other stuff that I'm sure we're going to talk about. But I really don't know the intricacies, or I mean, maybe you do, but I don't know what that means, particularly with the team and sport relationship. Like, truthfully.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more, again, I think it's more of an optics thing, because if it was the case, they wouldn't have been sponsoring the 13 car this year. If that was the case. My biggest thing with it is it optically it just looks bad for NASCAR to in take a sponsor from a team.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the biggest takeaway from it, right? I, again, don't know the financials, don't know, just the only thing we do know on the outside is that Geico leaving the 13 car is ultimately what shuts down Gervain Racing, who has been in the sport forever. They with Todd Bodine in the Truck Series for a long time, moving up to Cup with Max Pappas when the Geico deal started.
Yeah.
And just it sucks to see another small team leave that was an alliance member too with RCR, which has gotten better throughout the year. But like you hinted at, so Gervain shutting down opened the door for things to hit the fan. Last Monday night, 9:30, because that's apparently the time we drop bombshell news. We got word that Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan were going to be buying the number 13 charter. Michael Jordan, MJ, and Denny being pretty close friends, and that they were going to be putting Bubba Wallace behind the wheel of that car. From the that was pretty crazy, right? Tommy and I were actually broadcasting a race that night when that news came out, and it came across my phone, and um, it was something we were told for weeks was going to be happening, but then we were told, well, maybe not, by
Yeah,
Michael Jordan's
no.
own people saying that he had no intention of doing so. Um, but before
Even
we,
still.
but
Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
right, but before we get into all of that, let's start. What does that mean for Denny Hamlin? Right, he's now getting some equity in the sport, becoming an owner.
I think it is really, really good for the sport. Obviously, the Michael Jordan part is really good for the sport. You want Michael Jordan. Everyone wants Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is a great asset to have in your sport, specifically if it's a sport. Denny Hamlin putting skin in the game is a pretty good vote of confidence, I think. Like, he wouldn't do that if it wasn't something that made sense, right? Much to the opposite of what we were saying with the Jermaine and the Geico thing, like, this is a good sign, I think. I think this is a really good sign that a driver is investing the time or the money or both to get skin in the game, which is just not something that you see very often anymore. A lot of times we've seen a large pool of the drivers that have left NASCAR just straight up leave if they haven't, if they don't feel like it's worth it. And we have to Carl Edwards, Matt Kenseth until he came back. I mean, there's a large pool of drivers that just straight up leave the sport, don't have anything to do with it. Denny Hamlin doing the opposite of that, getting more involved, is, I think, really important.
Yeah, I mean, Denny getting involved in the sport as an owner, it's really big, right? And I think it's gonna make him, a 3-time Daytona 500 champion, a guy that I think everyone assumes will win a title, before his career is over, a Hall of Famer, right? He's gonna be a Hall of Famer.
Oh,
Um,
100%.
it's gonna keep him in the sport for a long time, even after his driving career is over.
Hmm.
I think it's good for him. We've seen drivers, not that Denny needs to, but we've seen drivers mature once they start their own race teams a little bit. You saw that with Kyle Busch. You
Hmm.
saw it a little bit with Kevin Harvick, but then actually getting rid of the team for him was something that probably actually helped him in the long run. Um, but I think for Denny, the thing that we're gonna have to pay attention to is how much information is passed with that JGR alliance. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, for Bubba Wallace, this is the opportunity of a lifetime, right? I mean, he took the chance to say a month or so ago that he was going to leave the 43 car, a team that has been miles ahead of where they were last year at this time in 2020. And he took the chance. He said, "You know what? I know we're building here, we're getting better, but I need to take a chance on myself, similar to how Matt DiBenedetto did so last year, going into the 95 car, and it paid off for him." So I think a guy like Bubba Wallace sees that and sees this as another great opportunity.
I think so. I really think we need to be careful about placing our expectations on this team, though. Like, truthfully, everyone will point to Furniture Row Racing and think this is what it's capable of. And that's just not the case. Furniture Racing had arguably one of the greatest crew chiefs of the past like 5 years, Cole Pern. Like, Cole Pern is very, very, very good. And like, even Levine this season, like, where is Levine? I mean, you could argue that maybe that's Chris Bell, but I I expect Bubba to do really well. This is a huge opportunity for Bubba, but I think, and Bubba Wallace is a professional race car driver. He knows this, but like, he's going to have to help build that team himself. Like, he's going to have to help build that team. It's not going to be Denny. It's not going to be Michael Jordan. It's not going to be the Gibbs cars. Like, he's going to have to take a big part in developing that team and making sure that the chemistry is right, making sure that the cars are right, making sure that they're doing everything right. You can have the best equipment and not perform with it. So I am very careful in placing expectations as far as where the team's actually going to perform. But for Bubba Wallace, yeah, this is monumental. This is probably the opportunity of his lifetime, and it probably will be.
Well, and it gets him back with TRD, right? I mean, early on in his career, he was obviously driving for KBM in the Truck Series, had a lot of success there, winning, one at Eldora, one at Martinsville, Homestead. I think 6 career wins. He had that 6th one at Michigan a few years ago. That year, he got laid off from the 6 car due to lack of sponsorship. But for Bubba, right? And you say he's going to have to build the team. He's done that the last 3 years, right? He has built that. He has helped be part of the solution to a downward spiraling Richard Petty Motorsports, right? I look at them being able to bring in worldwide technology. I don't know. No, I don't think we know quite yet where that sponsor is going to land. If it's going to stay with the 43 or if it's going to move over with Bubba.
Right. Yeah.
But we know some other ones. I think the big thing though for Bubba is going to be it's going to be exactly that. Watch the expectations. You're not going to win in the first 10 races next year. And if you do, that is remarkable, commendable, all those words, right? It's going to take time. And I think next year, this JGR alliance that they're going to have, you have to be a little cautious, right? Because JGR, with their last 2 teams, has really sucked the lifeblood. They did it to Furniture Row. They did it to Levine now. And that's a big reason why Levine's not going to be around, right? Because Next Gen wasn't coming next year like originally thought, and coronavirus and all these things that have impacted the sport. But with the JGR Alliance, that should at least help this team be viable, at least contend for top 20s, top 15s right out at the gate.
Oh, absolutely, 100% agreed. The JGR Alliance is going to be the difference between a brand new team starting out and a team that's going to at least feel somewhat established and possibly even make the playoffs. Like, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too. Like playoffs right now, I think that's a very. I mean, look, he was 20th in points. I think going into the last 4 or 5 races before the playoffs. And a lot of that has to do with a lot of mechanical issues that 43 team had this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the JGR Alliance, it's going to make him viable from the start. Daytona next year, he's going to have 4 teammates, in the 11, 18, 19, and 20 cars, even though it's a single car team.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
I think Next Gen coming along is definitely going to help the team when it comes to money, right? I mean, not that I would assume they're going to have almost unlimited resources with the backing they're getting from Michael Jordan, from the sponsors Bubba's now brought in, and I'm assuming they will be able to bring in with just the names that they have with that team.
Yeah, exactly.
But just because you have unlimited money, it doesn't mean that you're going to want to sink all that money in. Michael Jordan has already said he's going to want to see results, right? He's going to want to see results out of this team. And if those results don't come, that's when you start to get worried. But again, you gotta temper your expectations with all of that. Sponsorship with this team, you'd have to Cash App and DoorDash are going along with Bubba most likely. Along with his deal with Columbia Outdoor. You'd assume there'd be a Jordan car somewhere down the line, of course.
You would hope.
You would hope. Denny Hamlin's already a Jordan athlete. You'd also think a couple races made with Coca-Cola on the hood of the race vehicle, unless there's something with Gatorade. I don't know if MJ's still part of that, or because that's a lot of things too, right? It's good brand endorsements and stuff that are involved with Michael Jordan might affect what sponsors can sign with the team.
Oh, you basically just Denny Hamlin and Bubba Wallace just gained a really fat Rolodex of possible sponsors, like in Michael Jordan.
Yes, and that's going to be the big thing too. Being able to go and make those phone calls and from the get-go have some legitimacy to being there to ask, hey, would you want to sponsor our car? I have a buddy, races dirt, right? And it's hard for him. He has to write these sponsor proposals, talk to these people that own these businesses, car dealerships, whatever it is. And it's hard to convince them. Now, if he was Michael Jordan knocking on the door saying, "Hey, come sponsor my race team," I'm pretty sure those people, they'd open the door wide open and say, "Let me hear your proposal," right? So,
Yeah,
that name brand is definitely going to help with this team, and honestly, for the sport as a whole, it's going to hopefully help diversify the fan base, which NASCAR has been doing it, or at least trying to do this season.
I think so as well. I think that's another thing that's gone on kind of under the radar is what that means for new fans coming into the sport. Like I think there's a huge pool of new fans now that are going to want to see the Jordan team, or they're going to want to see the Jordan car in person. I think that's going to be really cool to see, and I actually cannot wait to see what find on social media when all this stuff is happening next season.
Yeah, and that's going to be exactly it. And it's going to, if we can have fans in the stands next year, that's going to be a big part of this too. Um, we've seen that already this year, that not having fans in the stands has really hurt a lot of sponsors and their activation in the sport.
Hmm.
So I think, as long as we have fans at 50% of the races, even if it's 25%, 50% capacity, whatever is deemed to be okay and safe. Uh, it's going to be important to have fans in the stands. But with all that being said, I think this team's going to be competitive, but I don't know if they're not going to be championship contenders, right? I think a lot of people are going to be really quick to say, "Oh, they're going to win 5 races next year, and they're going to be in the final 4." I think that's probably setting the expectations too high, but I can see them getting a win, if not making the playoffs. Bubba probably getting a career high in top 5s, top 10s.
Yeah,
Probably more likely top 10s. But again, you're going to be going against 4 really strong Gibbs cars at least that are going to get higher priority, right, than you.
yep, exactly.
So, and we've even seen Gibbs can barely field the 4 cars a lot of years, right? We saw that when Suarez came up in the 19, and whether that be you think that Suarez isn't as competitive as those other guys, or that he had the worst cars, which I believe it's probably a combination of both. Or maybe not the right people. You never know, right? It's when a team doesn't perform, it's 100 different things, and that's
There could
how.
be a million things that
Yeah.
are going on behind the scenes. Yeah,
You
exactly.
can't blame one thing, but we've seen it this year with Eric Jones not being where his teammates are, and it again a million things. So it'll be interesting to see too what Christopher Bell does in the 20 car next year and how that relates to Bubba with this new team. But we move on. On the same day last Monday, another big chunk of news, and I think this one came out probably because they finally got word on where Bubba was going. But Ross Chastain is going to be coming up to the Cup Series to drive the number 42 car. I would assume.
Uh,
I would assume Credit One is probably still on that car next year.
I would assume.
Um, don't know if it's the same for McDonald's, because I think they've kind of looked at that relationship a little weary-eyed. But
Hmm.
for Chip Ganassi Racing, we'll start with them. Is this the right move?
I don't think it's the right move for Chip Ganassi Racing.
Why is that?
I Ross Ross is a very quick driver. He has proven it time and time again that he is a quick driver. I I'm gonna kind of speed up a little bit here, and I if this makes sense, I think it is the right move for Ross. I don't think it's the right move for Chip Ganassi. I think Ross Chastain needs that ride that he's going to mature in, and it's going to be a rough maturity because Ross Chastain is very aggressive. He's going to race like it's his last race every single race because he thinks it is, and he is totally fine in thinking that way, but he's going to do that and it's going to cause problems and it's going to cause a lot of problems. I think it's going to cause more problems than people even realize. I think Ross Chastain, if he doesn't keep it in check, I think his like what he's known for, like who he is, that's going to change next season. Um, but if he can keep it at least a little bit in check, it'll be a good maturity move. I think he will grow a lot in the ride. But Chip Ganassi is going to suffer because I foresee a lot of wrecked race cars in their future. I don't expect to see that 42 team. It's going to be checkers or wreckers. Very literally, in my opinion. I just don't. Ross Chastain is not the guy I would have. I
You wouldn't
can't
have
even really
pegged him
say
for
that.
that ride.
I can't even really say that because I mean he is fast. Like I'm not gonna sit here and say he's not fast. That'd be stupid to say, but I don't. I would have liked to see him get a ride that matures him before coming into a team where he could potentially stay a long time at. And I don't think he's going to stay a long time at Chip Ganassi Racing if he continues driving like his normal self next year.
I I think that's a good point. I think for Ganassi, I know wrecked race cars. I would think Ross might wreck a few of them and maybe bend them out of shape and whatnot next year. But it is going to be the last year that you have the current gen car. We're also, there's rumblings. We're recording this on what? It's September 29th, so we haven't gotten the new schedule yet. And it sounds like there's going to be a lot of road courses, a lot of maybe a couple short track here or there.
Yeah, if there is a year to tear up race cars, I guess next year is the year.
Next year would be the year because you're gonna hopefully again move on to the next gen. I mean, next gen was supposed to come next year, but it's not. So if that's your concern, I guess next year would be the year to at least get the bugs, get the wrinkles ironed out.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said though, for Ross, this is a no-brainer. You're going up to
Yeah.
what was a competitive cup team, right? When Larson was in the 42 car, those first 4 races, I believe he was top 5, top 10 in the points.
Mm-hmm.
That 42 car was really fast to start the year. We also saw though, Chad Johnston is left that team or was relieved of his duties. I don't know what the exact press release said, but so new crew chief on that 42 the last month or so with Matt Kenseth. But I mean, Ross is stepping up to a competitive team. I think they're probably a little more competitive than what he got at Roush in those 3 races he was there. So it's the right move. If you have the opportunity to move to a competitive cup team, you have to take it nowadays because those opportunities they're few and far between with the kind of a lack of really competitive teams.
Yep.
But performance wise, I think Ross is a guy that can help hopefully elevate the equipment, right? Do you think that this is going to at least help the 42 get to that same level as the 1 car? I mean, Kurt Busch now coming off a win this last weekend. The stuff was written before this past weekend. So, do you think that 42 can get to the same level if Ross is the driver?
I know this is not an opinion that people agree with, but I don't think it will. I think Ross Chastain is just going to keep that 42 at the level it's at. If he gets a second season, maybe the next gen car changes things around. Maybe he matures next season. You never know. I mean, maybe in the second half of the season could be, he could just rattle off wins here and there. It could happen. I'm sure it could. I just don't see Ross Chastain as the guy that's going to elevate the 42. I mean, especially like Kurt Busch, man. I mean, he's something else. He elevates every team he goes to, and Ross Chastain doesn't show me that at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that 42 car is going to compete for more wins next year than it did this year. I think
for sure.
I think throwing Matt Kenseth in that car now, probably wasn't the wisest of moves.
Couldn't have been a worse time and I don't want to say the worst driver, but like probably the worst selection you could have made
with the
as
circumstance.
A driver for the circumstance, yeah.
I don't know if it's the worst for the circumstance because you could have put a guy like with 0 to very little cup experience because at least Matt Kenseth is a brand name, and I think the move to get Matt Kenseth had a lot to do with having appeasing the sponsors. I think they said as much originally when they hired Matt Kenseth.
That's very fair. Yeah.
The other reason they didn't want to put Ross in the 42 car originally was because they wanted to be able to compete for a driver's championship if it was at all possible, and obviously now we know that was not the case. But this 42 car, I mean, we know it's good, or we know it can be good. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get back there. But you move on, you look at across the shop at that 1 car. This week, Kurt Busch won at Las Vegas and got really lucky with the pitch strategy, right? Got the caution coming out at the right time, was able to hold everyone off. But he also, in the last couple days, there's rumblings, and Kurt even said that it's a 50-50 shot if he races past the 2021 season. So when Kurt retires, it's going to open up the one seat, whether it be for 2022, 2023, whenever that is. So I know you said maybe now isn't the right time for Ross to get in that 42 car. Maybe he goes to a smaller team, but you got to think Ganassi's looking at, hey, I might have another car open in a year or two, and I want to make sure I at least have one driver that I can count on, and then maybe take a risk on a very younger guy.
Yeah, that's tough. As soon as you started talking about it, I started thinking, take that. I mean, I'm sure there are drivers. I'm sure I can rattle off names, Xfinity, but I can't really pin anyone for that seat. After Kurt, I
Yeah.
can't think of anyone who's like, oh yeah, that's the guy. Like people like Ross Chastain was like, oh yeah, Ross Chastain's probably gonna go to the 42. Like that's probably the thing that's gonna happen. I can't. There's no one like that with the one car. That's a tough prediction.
Yeah, and I think right now, Kurt brings in all the Monster Energy sponsorship, and that's what funds the one team for the most part. It's gonna probably most likely, if that makes any sense, have to be a guy that brings along some sponsorship. So I look at a guy like Noah Gragson right now in the Xfinity Series, going to be running down there again next year. Could be a guy that maybe goes into that car. Whatever your opinions about Noah are non-withstanding, but I think it's gonna have to be a guy that has some sponsorship.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Ganassi's gonna be able to find other partners. I mean, I again could be wrong. But depending on when Kurt decides to hang up the helmet, I think that's really gonna tell us how it's gonna really, whenever he hangs up the helmet, that's gonna determine who gets in the car. It might not even be about if the guy is ready to be in that car. But if he retires, if he doesn't retire after next year, Noah Gragson's going to be in Cup Series in 2022. He's shown success this year. He's probably going to have some success next year. You lose out on that opportunity. There's not a lot of other guys down there in Xfinity right now that have sponsorship that you could see potentially going towards a Cup car. Maybe a guy like Justin Allgaier. But how much would he really want to go drive the one car when he's trying to win an Xfinity championship in one of the better teams? So that's where I kind of look at it. And another thing too is now you're going to have two competitive teams out of that CGR shop next year. I'm assuming a lot of the resources have been going towards that one car now for the last, well, obviously for the playoffs now, so the last 4 races, but it'll kind of see what that team does once they start having 2 cars that they have to run out of the shop competitively.
Yeah, I'm still stuck on who could take the one car. Honestly, I mean, it might not even have to be a young driver. I'm sure there are current drivers in Cup that would take that car.
I
Like
mean, Corey
who's on a
LaJoy.
contract? Who's on a contract year next year? I mean, Corey LaJoy is probably a good shout. Like, are there any other top drivers that are in a contract year next year?
Depending on what happens with Cindric, Keselowski could be a guy that goes into that car.
That's true.
Because Keselowski's only on a 1-year deal, and you have to assume if Cindric doesn't come up to Cup next year, it'll be 2022 for sure.
Yeah.
But does Tim Cindric want to really get rid of a guy that's won a championship for his team? That's the thing. With a lot of these drivers and where they're running, it's hard to pinpoint them until that Bubba to MJ Denny team is, because we don't know the team name yet. That was kind of telegraphed for us. The Ross Chastain of the 42 was kind of telegraphed for us, but so far we really got a lot of questions. We move on though. So Spire Motorsports about a month or so ago announced that they had acquired the 95 team charter. Initial reaction was a very poor one towards this, right? People are thinking it's going to be another Rick Ware situation. What's your opinion on that? I think they can people at home can kind of assume.
Yeah, what you just said. It's gonna be a second Rick Ware Racing. It's gonna be another team that's just showing up just to make their money and leave. But I mean, that's kind of been what Spire has been the whole time anyway. They lucked into that one win, and I mean, they're just collecting the check at the end of the weekend, man. It's what I'm gathering from it. I don't see Spire trying to be competitive. Rick Ware, possibly because they have the sports car program that they have. You know, possibly Rick Ware could possibly try and be competitive. Spire is not doing that, and I don't see how them having a second car is gonna help them do that.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I mean,
yikes.
my one thing is if they can get a better alliance with Chevy team, if one thing to think about, Germain shutting down, RCR is going to have the capacity to have another satellite team. Maybe Ty Dillon gets in that Spire car and it becomes the RCR satellite like Germain was.
True.
Um, that's one thing, but also the 43 car is open, right? And they're already an RCR affiliate. But you know,
Mm.
if with them fielding two full-time teams, there's a rumor that Justin Haley, who won that race for them at Daytona based on rain, he could fill a seat. Do you really think that would be wise for Justin to step into the Cup Series with a team that well, is we laugh at a lot? Honestly, we laugh at this team a lot.
I mean, I don't really know. I gotta be honest. I don't really know if that benefits a driver. I don't think it does. I don't think that benefits any driver. I think maybe if that driver is, I mean, I don't want to be. I like Justin Haley, but I don't think he's going to elevate that team, or he's not going to wring that car out the way someone else could. I don't think. So I'm sure it's a good opportunity. I'm sure any full season in Cup you would take. I would. I mean, I got to be honest. Like I say this, I would take that ride if I were in Justin Haley's position. I would take that ride. Is it long term a good decision? No, it's not. I don't think it is. I think Justin Haley should continue being competitive in Xfinity.
Yeah,
That was a really long drawn out answer to
yeah,
get to that, but yes.
yeah. I mean, I agree with that, right? I think he's in a really good place with Kaulig. He has the 2 wins this year, but they're Talladega and Daytona. So, and at the Daytona race, his 2 teammates wrecked right in front of him. I think staying with Kaulig is definitely a good idea, especially with Ross moving up to the Cup Series. So you'd assume that whether Kaulig decides to put a guy like AJ Allmendinger in their second car next year, or find another young Chevy driver to take over that seat, whether an Anthony
Mm.
Alfredo, Kaz Gralla, one of those guys. I think again, you want to get to Cup Series, right? That's the ultimate goal of any short track racer around the country. You want to be in the NASCAR Cup Series. But if you're a guy like Justin Haley, we also, guys run into the problem of, oh, you've been in the Cup Series for so many years driving X, Y, and Z cars for bad teams, and then your name just kind of gets forgotten. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. It is not a very nice sport. Well, like once you get that reputation as being that guy, you stay that guy until you can do something incredible. I mean, that's why drivers like Landon Castle doesn't have, and everyone taps him up to be one of the most talented drivers without a ride in the Cup Series. He's been in the Cup Series forever. Once you go the Landon Castle route, you stay in the Landon Castle route. The only exceptions are Alex Bowman and Matt DiBenedetto.
Yeah.
And even then, like Alex Bowman is very lucky he had a particular conversation with Dale Jr. Matt DiBenedetto got a very impressive 6th place in that Bristol race. Like it is a very tough position to call your way out of.
I mean, Matt DiBenedetto, too. I mean, second at Bristol last year in August. He's had 2 second place finishes now this season at both times at Las Vegas. But talk about having a couple good tracks, right?
Right.
And I think that you don't want to be known as that guy. I think a guy that's in danger of that too right now is a guy like Corey LaJoie, right? Really
Yep.
talented race car driver. We know he's good, but he's kind of taken the I'm gonna drive some worse equipment. I'm gonna show that I can elevate the equipment, and I'm gonna hope that's gonna pay off. And a lot of times nowadays, money's the thing that pays off, which gets that second Spire team, which was is or was whatever, however it shakes out. But I'm assuming that second car is probably going to be a filler car with a bunch of randos in it, like it has been for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty easy bet to take. I mean, if you bring money to that team, they're going to put you in a seat. It's
Yeah.
just that simple.
So and I think we kind of touched on it too. The team's model, right? This team model has to continue to work for them, right? Originally, the whole idea behind Spire was, okay, we're gonna buy the Furniture Road charter. They were trying to sell it originally, couldn't get anyone to buy it, so they bought it instead, and then they were just gonna hold on to it and sell it 5 years down the road. That was what the rumblings and thoughts around the team was.
Mhm.
I think too. We talked about the charter system right at the start. The charter system allows for that, right? Where the owners point system didn't, because you had to be competitive to be top 35 in owners points. So, um, is the idea for a person to come into the Cup Series? I mean, take it down to your karting level. Is a guy's idea to just come into a series to hopefully build some competitive cars, earn some prestige for a number or a charter, and then just sell it? Is that really a great way to operate a race team?
You would have a lot of people looking very sideways at you. You're taking a spot from a lot of people that would probably enjoy being there under some much more legitimate pretenses. Someone who wants to be competitive. Um, Being there just for the purpose of turning it over at some point is kind of scummy. I feel like that's scummy, right?
Yeah,
Am I wrong?
a little bit, I
It's a
think.
little,
Has
it's a
a
little
shade
scummy.
to it.
Yeah, and it didn't like you gotta think as a driver of that team, like you don't want to be stuck with them when they
Mm.
turn the team over. Who the hell is this new team, and why? Like, what are they gonna want? Not you. They're gonna want someone else. They don't want the driver that was a complicit part of this obvious cash grab. It just looks bad. It looks bad for everybody.
Yeah, and I think it sounds like from I think the owners were or the owner was recently on Dale Junior Download, not sponsored at all. Was originally on.
Sponsor Junior.
Hey, call me. I'm always open for ideas. Um, Sounded like they really want to start building this team. They talked about how they want guys like Justin Haley, Ross Chastain, which gets into my next thing though. Spire was originally an agency for these drivers, right? It's an agency. It's a sports agency for race car drivers. Um, it's my opinion that an agency probably shouldn't have its own team to put its clients in, because I think it kind of invalidates the reason that they're in that car a little bit. Not, obviously, at the end of the day, if they weren't suitable to be in that car, they wouldn't be. But I think it kind of dulls down that idea that they're in this car because they deserve it. What would be your? Do you think kind of the same thing?
Yeah. So like just to make sure I understand, I knew this. I just want they were a driver before they were a race team.
Yes.
Ooh. Yeah. No, that's bad. That's real bad. That's not good. Not good. Uh, Maybe if you want to do it the other way around, that's probably pretty good. I mean, that's just kind of in-house social media, but like, yeah, that's. I mean, it's kind of obvious why that's a problem, right? Like, I don't even need to explain it. It's kind of obvious why that's a little weird. You don't really want that. That's not good.
Yeah, I
And they
think.
had other didn't they have other drivers that weren't on the team? Like that was the main issue with the Daytona win, right? Is they like represent you know some freaking driver, and then this other freaking driver, like not necessarily the drivers that were on the team. Isn't that like isn't that what was going on?
Second, this is for right. Um, what they originally weren't. Their driver wasn't a representative of the team, or what do you? What were you
Well,
saying?
I thought they represented drivers that weren't on the team, and so that's why it was like, oh, this is a conflict of interest because the driver agency part of this team is going to be like, oh, that's not good. They beat our driver that they represent or something. It was something. I don't know, man. Nick Bromberg just be tweeting stuff. I was just listening to him.
Hold on. Yeah, I mean, I just think it's a conflict of interest, right? Um, you're out here representing your clients. Um, they consult with these drivers. They have guys like Ross Chastain, this James Hinchcliffe. I'm doing some more digging is one of their drivers, and we'll get into that later on too.
Ooh.
Um, um, but they represent a bunch of people, right? They represent Hinch, they represent Ross Chastain, Justin Haley, Oliver Askew, Garrett Smithley, Landon Castle, Matt Mills, Jesse Little, Mason Massey, Vinnie Miller. Travis Braden and Christian Rose. Um, they have listed on their website. So there's some big names on there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, they also, it looks like they own the Rapid City Rush, which is a ECHL hockey team, based out of Rapid City, South Dakota. It looks like they might own Knoxville Raceway as well.
What?
Maybe they just do the.
It's like, excuse me.
But it's listed as their property, so I assume that's
What?
So again, could be wrong. Could be wrong.
That is.
They might represent the track too, which could, but so
It's gotta be.
they do a lot of things, right? They do a lot of things, and that's good business to have. I don't know if having your agency intertwined with your race team, which they say it's not, but when the drivers of the team are half of guys that you represent, I think it's a little hard to say, oh yeah, they're totally separate just from an outside view. But
Yeah. Believe us. We promise. Don't look.
there's nothing wrong here. A guy that said that for a long time. He was on top of the pit box for your favorite driver for all but 2 years. Chad Knaus announced today that he was going to become the VP of competition at Hendrick Motorsports, starting next year.
Finally got a damn promotion. It's about damn time. Get off the pit box, Chad, old bastard.
I think that's a good move for Hendrick, right? You keep Chad in house. I think I would assume he's probably getting tired of the road life, right?
He's probably getting tired of William Byron.
That's a topic for a different day. But good move, bad move. I know good for Chad, obviously, but for Hendrick, that's got to be a good move, right?
It is a great move. You don't want someone like Chad Knaus leaving at all in any capacity. I'm assuming he wouldn't have left regardless. But I mean, and you say we'll get to the William Byron thing, but I think we can kind of dabble into it now. Like, that relationship wasn't working. It just wasn't working. Whether you think William Byron has the goods or not, I don't think he does. That relationship was just not good, and Milk and Cookies wasn't going to fix it. I'm sorry. So yeah, Chad Knaus, it's a good move. You kept Chad Knaus. Chad Knaus is in a position where he can pass along the Chad Knaus philosophy to all these other crew chiefs that are going to come up, and you really can't go wrong with that, in my opinion. There's no downside to this move except for maybe young Bill, but
yeah. I mean, it's gonna hurt Byron now. He's gonna be in his third crew chief, in 4 years in the cup. Or yeah, it'll be his third crew chief next year in 4 years.
William Byron, what?
Can
we have are we allowed to have can I be funny? Am I allowed to do that?
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh, can I cuss?
Well, I mean, you've been doing it the whole time, so.
This is all going in the podcast, by the way. You're not editing this out.
Oh no, I'm not. Never.
Okay, good.
Never editing. Yeah. We don't do that here. It's a low budget operation.
Gotcha, guys. I'm a lot more comfortable now. Okay, I can relax. That was my chair.
I think good for Chad, right? And Chad, if you're looking for any interns, I'm available for internships, so I'll shoot my shot. Moving on to the car that Chad was the crew chief.
Wow.
Hey man, I'll move down to North Carolina for a summer. Shameless plug. Going to the University of Michigan, #1 public university in the world, as they like to say. Hendrick 48 car. That's the big seat open still, right?
Oh boy.
Rumors circulating. Two guys, right? I think there's really two candidates for this car. One guy has been a candidate for years. The other guy has been let go from his team. We'll start with the guy that's been a candidate for years that people have been saying should go to this 48 car. He's also a guy that people were saying should go drive the 14 car. It's your boy Kyle Larson. Not your boy, but Kyle Larson.
Not my boy.
Um, in the grand scheme of things, for Hendrick, is it a good idea to bring Kyle Larson back into the fold?
I think, and we're gonna have to talk about the situation that everyone knows about at some point.
What a crazy night, by the way. Do you remember that night? Like,
I do
we're
remember
sitting
that
here,
night.
and then all of a sudden, Kyle Larson said something bad. And
We all knew the next morning was going to be a very interesting morning, and we were so very right. I almost that was almost, oh god, this is gonna be so awful to say. You can edit this out. You can bleep it out. You should bleep things. That'd be way funnier. That was kind of like the 9/11 of NASCAR fandom this year, right? Like everyone knows where they were when Kyle Larson said the N word at Monza.
yeah, I mean,
I mean, that was just nuts. I'm
I'm
sorry.
assuming you're watching Parker Klinger in stream, right? And he just says it over open chat, and and
He's talking with Connor Daly. Connor Daly screams. Like he just yells.
bro, that's not okay.
Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, getting back on topic.
Getting back on
We're
topic.
not going to make fun of Kyle Larson anymore, racist bastard. I think if it's done right, I think here's what I want from Kyle Larson. I'm going to assume that this is just a thing that's going to happen. I don't like. I would love personally to see Eric Jones in the 48 car.
I
Like
would
I
as
would really
well.
love it. Eric Jones deserves a top tier Cup ride. I
He
don't know if we'll
deserves
get
a
to that
fair
today.
shake. Yeah, that's
We
next.
need to get to that at some point. Okay,
That's part
okay,
of this.
okay.
That's all part of
We'll,
this.
we'll get there. We'll get there. But if Kyle Larson's going to go to the 48 car, I want a detailed. I want something from Kyle that explains what he has learned because I know he's been doing work in his community. I saw the pictures. I saw the pictures from that Instagram account that were months old when people found them. So he's not doing it publicly. He's not making a big show about it. He's learning behind the scenes, I hope. And I would like to see in some capacity what he's learned and what he's going to continue to do. Like I want some sincerity. I want some honesty. I don't. It's not my place to forgive him, but I want to see. I want to see something happen that can start that path before I am happy about him in the 48. And if I don't, the reason I say that is because I feel like if I'm not happy about him being in the 48, if there isn't that, if it doesn't seem like there's any genuine, knowledge that he has gained from this experience of his life, I feel like the sponsors won't be happy either. I feel like the fans won't be happy. I feel like that won't be a supported move by a large chunk of the fans of the sport right now. So it would be a bad move for Hendrick Motorsports in that case.
Well,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think this summer, right? You look at NASCAR Twitter, you look at racing Twitter. It's been a Kyle Larson fest, right? I mean,
Oh my god.
oh, he won 6 races in a week. It's like, okay, great. He won 6 races in a week, but it's kind of, I almost think about it like it's the Kyle Busch effect, right? We expect Kyle Busch to go out and win Xfinity and truck races, and when he doesn't win, it's awkward more than if he does win, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I think he ran a dirt late model at a racer, something of the like.
Oh my god. Huge deal. Yeah, okay.
Well, for him to be competitive his first time in one of those cars, yeah, I think that's something that you could highlight.
Yeah,
But I mean,
for sure.
saying he won 6 out of 7 races in a week, yeah, it's impressive. But I think we kind of expect that. I think if you put Kyle Busch on a track in 6 straight Xfinity races, we expect him to win 4 or 5 of those, right?
Agreed.
So you have to temper the expectations with Kyle Larson. He's been in the Cup Series in a very competitive car before. He's had very good success. You look back at 2017, where he won 4 races, I believe. My math is correct. In that year, though, he won both the Michigan races in California. So, call him a one-trick pony if you really wanted to. He
Well, it's a good thing they're getting rid of those tracks as they exist now.
it's good. Well, just California.
Yeah, but they're getting rid of one Michigan date, probably.
No, 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 no. That's
Sorry.
tomorrow. My sadness is for
Sorry.
tomorrow, not tonight.
I,
I gotta
I'll,
get
well,
this
I'll,
thing edited, Davey.
we'll bring the sadness next week when Michigan has one date.
Sad. Hopefully, it's the June date, not the August one. Um, back to the point though. I think Larson going to the 48. It's gonna make that 48 car competitive, right? You're gonna put a good driver behind the car, but like you said, I think it's a big deal making sure the sponsors are happy with the guy.
Hmm.
Um, Ally is backing that car 100% into the future. Sponsor that car. Another thing to watch is what happens with the 88 if Bowman can shore up some more sponsorship for that car. Because now Hertz actually ended its deal with the 24 team, so there's some unsponsored races on that car. You can see sponsorship move around from the 88 to that car. Bowman goes to the 48 or something like that. But another guy that's been linked to the seat, getting off the Larson tangent and just the craziness with that.
Oh, thank God.
Eric Jones. Eric Jones, one of my guys I root for. He's from good old Byron, Michigan, about 20-30 minutes away from me.
Some might call him that Jones boy.
Some might, and they would be correct. I think people, their expectations for Eric Jones, right? He's driving a Gibbs car. He's got to win multiple races. He's got to do this, and he's got to be competitive, winning races. The one thing I would say to them, look at this year. Look at Joe Gibbs Racing. How many wins does Kyle Busch have, Davey?
Ooh, that'd be a goose egg.
How many wins does Martin Truex Jr. have, Davey?
You're starting to get some numbers I don't know how to count to.
One.
I don't. When Martin Truex Jr. wins a race, I forget it anyway. So thank God, it's only one. I only forgot one race so far.
And then Denny Hamlin has the 7 or 8. I don't know the number off the top of my head.
Different breed.
Right. And I think that's a lot. Chris Gabehart is an amazing crew chief as well. But people say, oh, Eric Jones, he hasn't had the success of his teammates. Well, I mean, his teammates haven't won as many races either. And Eric Jones would have been in the playoffs just like Jimmy Johnson if we didn't have Austin Dillon and Cole Custer win races. So, the thing with Eric Jones is I think that these past 2 years, he's probably been in the optics, whether they're right or wrong. He's been in the worst Gibbs car.
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously, they're not going to put the resources towards that 20 car compared to his teammates now that, he's not in the playoffs and they are. But Eric Jones to the 48. Another thing too, Ally Financial, based out of Detroit, based out of Michigan. Michigan driver. Is that something to consider with the sponsor?
Absolutely not. They don't. I'd love to say so.
Straws.
They don't care. They don't give a shit. They don't care. They're gonna look at Kyle Larson. They're gonna be like, "Hey, Kyle Larson, do happy things. Make it look like you're good again." And Kyle Larson's gonna do them because he's Kyle Larson. Gonna do them. And Kyle Larson's gonna be in the 48 because nature hates Eric Jones.
Yeah, I mean, another thing, real quick, little tangent about Eric Jones or rant. 2016 Xfinity Series Championship. Daniel Suarez wins it after Eric Jones I think he was 4th car off of pit road, had to line up behind Cole Witt on 100 lap old tires. So just think about that when you say, well, Eric Jones didn't win an Xfinity Championship. Neither did Christopher Bell. It took Christopher Bell 2 years. It took Christopher Bell 2 years to win a Truck Series title too.
Yes, sir.
And Christopher Bell is also older than Eric Jones, so
I've been waiting for you to bring that spice at me.
Dude, we'll talk about the Christopher Bell thing. I mean, you know what? I don't have it on the sheet, but we can talk about it. Christopher Bell.
Let's talk about Christopher Bell.
Let's talk about Christopher Bell. 20 car next year. I've seen the guy on track this year. Again, these guys would whoop me, right, in a race, right? if I get behind a wheel of the car, they're gonna kick my butt. Christopher Bell, Eric Jones. I don't see that as big of a difference as I think a lot of people see. I honestly think Jones is a year younger. Um, I think the newer car might have hurt Jones a little bit. I think coming from his background, maybe a little less downforce is good. It's probably the same thing with Seabell. Um, but Eric Jones, I mean, he spent 1 year in Xfinity full time, 1 year in trucks full time, and then was up into Cup. Christopher Bell, 2 years in trucks, 2 years in Xfinity full time, and then now in his rookie season in Cup. Whether that progression is because of when seats opened and what have you. Christopher Bell though has now kicked 2 drivers out of their cars in 2 successive years. So, I mean, what's your opinion? I mean, I'm a little biased, right? Eric Jones, he's my driver. So I'm a little biased, but C Bell, Eric Jones, what's the verdict from a non-biased Davey Hazard?
It is. You see, when you start talking about Christopher Bell and what he's going to do in that 20 car, my immediate thought is to look at Matt DiBenedetto instead, because he ran the 95 car last. That's the first comparison I decided to make. You look at the seasons, and obviously the season isn't done yet, but I mean, you look at the seasons, and Matt DiBenedetto had a better season in that 95 car than Christopher Bell has had in the 95 car this season. You could possibly make an argument that maybe the 95 car is getting a little bit more backing because it's Christopher Bell.
Oh, it definitely has gotten more backing.
Joe Gibbs kind of be slobbing on Christopher Bell a little bit, I mean, they are.
Yeah.
I mean, Christopher Bell
Rightfully
has one
so.
top 5.
Rightfully so, though.
I mean, that's their driver. I get it. Christopher Bell has one top 5. Matt DiBenedetto last season had 3 top 5s. Top 10s, it's the same spread. Average start and average finish is marginally better. Not even marginally. It's a few positions better in Matt DiBenedetto's favor. And again, I truly think that the 95 is getting more JGR backing than it did last year. I gotta agree with you, and it's good that someone's agreeing with you that isn't biased, because you were very upset. But yeah, I don't think Christopher Bell is all he's cracked up to be. I don't think he's going to be that much of a performance difference from Eric Jones in either a negative or a positive way. I truly think it's probably going to be about the same performance in the 20 camp as it was this season.
Yeah.
If not, maybe even a little worse, truthfully.
I think, though, it depends on who the crew chief is. I think Christopher Bell, Jason Ratcliffe, being the crew chief, won all those races with Matt Kenseth, almost won the 2013 championship. I think probably helps to have a crew chief like that on top of your box. So I think he's had that advantage too throughout his career in Xfinity and now Cup.
Correct, yeah.
So that's another thing to look at. I think again, it's hard to compare drivers just because of you don't know the differences in equipment, talent, whether it be pit crew, engineers, crew chiefs. I think that one thing to watch for Eric Jones is he really, really, really needs that little bit of extra spotlight shined on him. Shown on him? Shined? Whatever. Dude has a reading club he does on Facebook for kids, right? He reads a children's book every week. That's something that's, connecting with younger kids. Very personable guy. I don't think there's a lot of guys like that nowadays. I think that's something that it's hard. It's a lot more prominent in a NASCAR garage compared to any other sport. But I think Gibbs giving up on Jones, I think that's what it is, right? I think they're giving up on Eric Jones.
That's a very fair assessment.
Look, they gave up on Joey Logano, and look at Joey Logano now, too. So you could either be Joey Logano, or it could be JJ Yeley, or it could be somewhere in between. So, I mean, that's what you got to look at. But yeah, I think that's Davey. I think that we covered pretty much all the silly season stuff, didn't we? That's been announced so far.
Good God. Yeah, we did. Jesus.
All right, so now,
This silly season's nuts. I'm like, my brain hurts. Oh my God. Okay, let's go.
all
I'm
right,
ready.
so we'll move on. Um, More silly season stuff, but from another form of racing. I guess it's not really silly season because it has to do with the last
It's
3 races this year.
happening.
Zach Veach out of the number 26 Gainbridge car for Andretti Autosport. For these last 3 races, the Harvest doubleheader GP at Indianapolis, and then at St. Pete to end the year. James Hinchcliffe. I almost called him Jason Hinchcliffe. My apologies, Hinch. Could he possibly be in a car full time next year? I mean, right now the funding is shored up. It sounds like for the 27, 28, and 88 cars for Andretti. Could we see Hinchcliffe back behind the wheel in the Andretti car next year? Or I guess maybe that's not the question for you, but do you think that that's a good move, right? Get Hinch back full time.
Oh yeah, I think it'd be good for Andretti. It'd be good, obviously, for Hinchcliffe. He's gonna be gunning for a ride, especially with Andretti, with Rossi there as well. And again, this is gonna sound like very, cliche sports dude, you know, in like a discussion, but I really think it's good for IndyCar. James Hinchcliffe is good for IndyCar. There's not a more marketable, funny like driver than James Hinchcliffe right now. Like he is the guy. The fact that he didn't have a seat this season was a farce, and it was sad, and it was wrong. And I really, really, really hope that he is back full time as normal, and that way nature can resume and heal.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good for IndyCar. I think it's good for Andretti. The one thing I would miss his commentary for NBCSN because I think he's done a fantastic job this year, providing a little more driver insight with them and their whole package. But yeah, I mean, it's a good move. He also has the sponsorship from Genesis to start the year, and they did a lot of activation in airports where IndyCar was in the cities that IndyCar was going to be racing this year. Obviously, that activation didn't pan out the way that assuming they thought it would. But my one thing though, it's kind of weird to terminate a contract with 3 races left, right? I mean, Zach Veach though, you look at him and you look at Ryan Hunter-Reay, you look at Colton Herta, you look at Alexander Rossi. I can't believe that name slipped from my mind for a second there. You look at those 3 and the success they have had, and then you look at Zach Veach, and he's kind of like the oddball in the group, right?
You almost forget that Zach Veach is even on Andrew. To be honest, like you almost forget that. That's how different those teams perform. Yeah, you just gotta have the stuff, and Zach Veach did not have the stuff, and it was very apparent.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully he can figure it out, get with another competitive team, but
He'll go
if
sports car racing until he retires.
I mean, that's not a bad thing. That's a good transition though, Davey, to our next topic. We're kind of glancing over these two because I think we've taken a lot of time. But
I segued on purpose. Did you like that? That was
I
pretty
did.
cool.
That was fantastic. Going on to IMSA, Acura, and Penske terminating their relationship after this year. I think they just won at Mid Ohio too this last weekend. But Wayne Taylor Racing picking up that Acura prototype program. But we start with Penske. They're 4 drivers, right? Elio Castroneves, Juan Pablo Montoya, Dane Cameron, and Ricky Taylor. Yeah. I am a little worried for Elio and Montoya. I think that a little worried. Dane Cameron and Ricky Taylor, they're going to be in sports car racing for as long as they want right now.
Yep.
They're younger and whatnot.
Ricky Taylor's gonna be. I think he's gonna go places, but let's continue. Go ahead.
Ricky Taylor might be going with the Acura program to his father's team, Wayne Taylor Racing, but but for Elio, I think Elio, whatever. Some people have said he could do like a deal with McLaren to drive a 3rd car. I think that's probably not gonna happen. What does losing that Acura prototype though mean for guys like Montoya and Castroneves?
I think for guys like Montoya and Castroneves, you're looking at two huge, huge names of motorsports. Juan Pablo Montoya, I'm sure he's going to find somewhere to race. I don't know where. I don't know the the landscape as far as the team lineups go in IMSA is kind of a question mark for me. So I don't know where he would go. I have a feeling Juan Pablo Montoya is going to stay in sports cars because there's a small enough number of races where he can help his kids still race and stuff like that. Elio, I'm gonna be biased and just say he can hang it up. Honestly, can retire, go back to Brazil, race Brazilian stock cars. Those are pretty cool. I don't know. I don't like Helios. I don't care. I haven't thought about him much. I feel more bad for Juan.
Yeah.
That I like Juan.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they can something good happens for them all, right? I mean, whether that be they want to whether that being that they want to continue in sports car, maybe just do a couple races, do the 24-hour, 12-hour, endurance ones here and
Mhm.
there, or if they, want to go run the Indy 500 again, if they want to, they'll have that flexibility to do what they want in the
Yeah.
future, no matter what it is. But yeah, I mean, it's sad to see that relationship between Penske and Acura go. It was a really good relationship, but not not too surprising, I think.
Do we know what Penske is doing?
I think they're completely pulling out of IMSA.
Yeah, that is sad.
I
That's not great.
There's rumblings that maybe they do a Porsche prototype team down the road.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
don't get my hopes up like that.
but I think the Penske Corporation and all that buying IndyCar and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, that has to do with it too, right? I think that's
Yeah,
something
just
where maybe you're gonna invest your time now in owning your.
rearranging your assets a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, they got a lot of Roger Penske's like a pretty busy guy, right? He's got a
Yeah,
lot of things to
for
do.
like an 80-year-old. Yeah, you're right.
Why don't we just take one thing off his plate for a little bit?
Just a wee bit.
But yeah, that's all the silly season stuff except for schedule stuff. But I think we're gonna tackle that next week. It's been a fun podcast, Dave. It's been a fun opening episode of the Fake Racers podcast.
I think as we get more comfortable, we'll make it sound less like a news broadcast and more like a podcast, but that's okay. The first one. We got there. We got comfortable.
We're
It's fine.
getting there.
Nothing's gonna be easy. This podcast stuff's easy, bro.
Hey man, all these random tracks are pushing out random stuff. Langley. I'm just searching the Twitter. Langley Speedway just posted a video, and IMS is gonna have a special schedule next week. We're just gonna talk about that next week. We're just gonna talk about oh my god, schedule next week. It's crazy, man. It's gonna be crazy. But
Wait, Langley? Why'd you mention Langley?
I'm just
Langley
scrolling
doing?
through Twitter, and Langley posted something about having the future is closer than you think. And then it shows the date 10/1/21. So, I mean, hey, we'll see. Right?
What? What?
That would be something like trucks, probably, if they did anything there.
That's exactly what I was hoping for. That's the best news.
But
Oh my gosh.
yeah, I'm ready for next week. We'll keep you guys updated. We'll see when we do. We might not be able to get the podcast in next week. It might be the week after. But thank you so much to everyone for tuning in. Make sure you check out all the beautiful, wonderful links in the description below. Check out our JTN Facebook page. Give us a like over there. If you have an NR 2003 league that you like broadcasted, you know who to hit up. JTN, of course, for your premiere. I'm gonna call it the premiere, Davey. I'm gonna boost my ego a little bit.
Ooh,
Premiere
premiere
NR 2003 broadcasting. On JTN, where you can see the likes of Davey Hazard driving the United States Online Racing League this winter. the Hobo Racing League and ASRA, TMP. You know the names, you know the drivers. We're just having a fun time here at JTN. For all of us, Davey, any last words?
If you have listened this far, thank you so much. The next one is going to be even better. I promise. Yeah, this one was pretty good. Next one, better. We're going to improve every podcast. If that doesn't happen, I don't know what I'll do. Follow me on social media at D7H5 on Instagram, at Davey Hazard on Twitter, at D7H5 I think on Twitch. Hold on. We're checking.
I thought it was H5er.
Yeah, it's an ER at the end because it was too short. D7H5er.
I'll put the links
on Twitch.
in the description.
Oh, you're gonna put me in the link dump? Yes,
Oh,
sir.
dude, I got you, boy. I got you.
See, Joe Twansky takes care of his employees. How much are you getting paid?
Anyways, thanks to everyone for tuning in tonight. Was that a serious question?
No.
You were supposed to laugh, man.
I was hoping you would just continue.
That was a laugh take.
I set you up for that. It was like an alley-oop, and you didn't oop.
Whoop! Texas Motor Speedway announcing things tomorrow at 3 p.m., so also check that out. Tomorrow's going to be a crazy day. Crazy day in the world of motorsports. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Fake Racers podcast. I hope that name's not already taken. And we'll see. FRP. Oh, man. Now I can make a logo. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. For Davey Hazard, for Bristol, our producer, the dog. He wasn't the cameraman tonight. I've been Joe Twansky. We appreciate you checking us out, stopping by. Make sure you share it with all your friends, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Have a wonderful day, night, morning, whenever you listen to us. Thank you so much for watching. Or listening.
Thank you so much.
Listening. They were listening, Davey. They weren't watching. They were listening.
Thank you so much for watching. Sponsor us.
Sponsor us. Well, you see that blank YouTube screen that just has our logo? We'll just put your logo right there.
I will put logos everywhere.
We'll be better than those Xfinity drivers saying Xfinity, the car was as fast as Xfinity Internet today. Anyways, thank y'all for watching. Have a wonderful day, night, evening. Make sure you spread love, peace, and happiness to all those that crossed your path, and we'll see you next time.